Hey, it's Diego with AimShoot Develop, and today I'm talking about this camera. It goes by several names. This is the Minolta Riva Panorama, but I've also seen it marketed as the Minolta Ps, P''S. This camera was introduced in 1991, and what makes this camera charming is it's a panorama only camera. There is cropping masks that you can't turn off. There's no little toggle there, so it's only panorama images. I will be showing photo examples taken with this camera, so stay tuned for that. And if you own one of these or were considering buying it by the end of the review, check out towards the end where I have a little experimental idea that I want to try with this camera. If you like this kind of content where I talk about cameras that not too many people are talking about, consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video if you think the content is cool. You can follow any of the future projects that goes on with this channel. So, getting on with the review, this is a 35mm film camera. You can see from the back here. This thing is stupid compact. I'm talking very small. When I got my hands on this camera, I was actually genuinely impressed. I don't know why, but it seemed larger in photos or even in videos when I see it, but it's really decent size. I didn't have a case for it when I was just traveling around, so I put it in my Nikon Light Touch case. And I praised that camera for its small size, and this one's the exact same, even if it's nice and snug. This camera has a 24mm f4.5 lens, which is actually pretty decently wide for a point and shoot. The only other cameras that have something like this is either really expensive or just a plastic body camera with no electronics. So it's going to be something like the Fuji Natura, I don't know how you say that, Nature S, the really sharp 1.9 lens. It's a 24mm. Or something like the Vivitar Ultra Wide, which is like, what, f11, it's a 22mm camera. So, really expensive or really wide. This is a nice consumer in between of that. But the thing that I always hear about people getting discouraged about buying it is that true blue, it's a panorama only camera. This camera has a mask that covers it from exposing the whole frame. It takes only one frame. It has the same effect as a point and shoot with the regular panorama mode. But the only difference is that you can't turn it off like I was saying at the beginning. I am looking for ways to maybe modify it, so if you know any way, leave them in the comments down below. The cropping of the frame is the thing that always separates the photographers from wanting it to not wanting it, because it's like compact point and shoot, yeah. Wide angle lens, yeah, that sounds great. You know, simple button layout, really simple, yeah. Crop frame, we'll hold it right there. You've gone too far. Usually when people talk about it, they say, well, I could just do that with my regular point and shoot. I could just, you know, crop the frame and then I get the same look. But I will guarantee you right now, nobody does that. I can literally tell you right now, nobody does that. Whenever people compose the images, they do it in the Viewfinder and they compose it as a whole. So unless you really go about it where you think, okay, I'm going to crop this piece off, but I'm going to leave this rest to nothing, nobody actually kind of does it. It's unfortunate to say because I think it's a cool aspect ratio, but it's true. I think the f4.5 lens is actually perfect for this camera, considering you're going to be out and about taking landscapes, so you don't need the sharpest lens, you don't need a 2.8 lens, or even like the 1.9 lens like the Fuji film camera that I was talking about, the Natura S. You don't need any of that, considering usually panoramics are taken with, you know, perfect sunshine if you're out doing touristy stuff. Like I was saying, this camera does have a really simple button layout. On the front there's a lens cover that turns the camera on, just a simple flip of a switch. As always, the self-timer is a self-timer. There's a big shutter button on the right side. It's easy to locate and distinguish because it's a whole different size and color than the rest of the camera. A lot of people talk about how they don't like that you have to push the flash button a few times to turn it off to no flash, so putting a physical button that overrides the flash is actually quite nice. But I do get why they put the regular flash on as an auto setting, because it just wants to get a proper exposure. It's just trying to do its best. Lastly, there's just a film rewind button on the bottom. That's pretty much it with the camera. The thing that I actually adore is on the back here, it's the viewfinder. It has a simple cut guideline on what the film will capture. My natural instinct when taking pictures is to get as close as possible, so seeing those really clear guidelines about, okay, this will be in frame, this won't be in frame, is actually really nice, because I want to get closer, but the viewfinder is telling me none of what you want is going to get in frame, so I always pull back. I'm really glad they went all the way with the panorama feature, because on regular point and shoots it's kind of just an afterthought of like, we'll put a little bar into the thing, but since it's like really clear cut, it's actually really good for composing. Really nice. When I hand this camera off to somebody, I always watch how they interact with it, and the opening of the lens is a really clear indicator that the camera is on or ready, which is really cool. But I did see that a lot of people always tend to put their finger here on the meter cell. It's not that common of an issue. Usually I'm just like, oh hey, by the way. And in any of the pictures that I've seen taken of me or anything, the metering is totally fine, or the focusing is totally fine. But please be conscious about where your hands are compared to the thing. I do like how there is kind of this raisedness on the lens, so you do know when you're diving into like lens territory to like back up. That was a really cool little idea. There's like a little bit of a hump there. I took a trip to China Peak, and I thought it was the perfect excuse to take panoramas because I'll be in the snow and trees and just everything, and the pictures came out fantastic. The camera was really pocketable. I can just put it in my little jacket, and I had no problem carrying it around. It was literally so easy to use, I could use it with gloves. This isn't camera related, but when I was out there, it was my first time snowboarding, and I ate it so hard. I literally had to walk the board back because I was so discouraged from it. If you're watching this even in the future, I'm sure my arm still isn't like properly healed, so I'll be fine maybe next Minolta, but not this one. When you're going down the hills, you don't really have time to stop and document, especially going as fast as I was. It was actually quite nice to just stop, take some pictures, and just enjoy the day. It didn't discourage me from snowboarding. I just have to forget that I was in so much pain for a long time. Overall, I actually really like this camera. It's a nice compact camera you can take anywhere, and the crop frame, although different, gets you a nice cinematic feel. If you use regular point and shoots, you've kind of been conditioned to see the same things or see things in the same way. It's actually nice to just shoot something different. I do like this camera because it makes me think differently of composition, to where it's not just the subject that I want to get nice and close, but everything as a mass. This really shows how versatile 35mm film was, considering they could do cool stuff like this. I'm glad they did. It could show how creative people can be when given certain limitations. Last thing I want to leave you with is the idea that I had cooking up halfway through the roll, where I'm like, dang, I should have tried that. So since the top and bottom of the frames are cropped, I was thinking, what if you run the roll net regularly, as you would, then using electrical tape, mask off the different area on another point and shoot, a full frame one, and then go ahead and run the roll like normal. That way you get the whole exposure filled with information, and you can do some cool artistic things like contrasting the top and bottom with the middle image. Cool little artistic idea, I guess, considering usually you see the top and bottom cropped, but it'd be cool to see the middle cropped and then shooting the top and bottom on the same exposure. I hope I explained that right. If you have any questions, you can just leave them in the comments. I'll try to explain it a little bit better. Make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video informative. Thank you for the continued support along all of my platforms. I really appreciate that. I did recently open up my Etsy again, where I sell film cameras, and this one is listed in the store. It is tested and works, you can see. Links to everything will be in the description down below. Thanks for hearing me out so far. Keep shooting film. Take care. Peace.